Tyro, and we're going to discuss another anniversary, the anniversary of Seinfeld. One of my favourite sitcoms, and recently what I discovered, one of Donald's favourite sitcoms as well.
Yeah, who knew?
Who knew? Who knew? Makes me become his friend even more so. Even more so.
Him in the milk.
But in all honesty, we both love Seinfeld a lot. We both love Seinfeld. And Seinfeld, it ended in 98, didn't it?
Yeah.
It ended in 98, but started in 89, I believe.
Yep,
89.
that sounds about right.
We're talking about Seinfeld and how its legacy, how it's become, I'd say it's one of the best sitcoms I've seen in a long, long while.
Yeah.
And how it's influenced other sitcoms as well. You can see its influences here, there, and everywhere. We're going to talk about our favourite episodes of Seinfeld. Maybe some characters as well.
Most definitely.
Yeah. But definitely episodes, characters, and it's just legacy, just in general, really.
Yeah, it's celebrating its 25th as The Simpsons.
As The Simpsons. So I thought, well, celebrating 25th, we'll talk about Seinfeld.
It's the time.
And the other thing as well is like how it's not as popular here in Britain. But it's getting a cult. It's always had a cult following, especially amongst comedians. So
yeah, and obviously in his hometown of America, it's obviously been a big deal over there, Jimmy Seinfeld and all that. So let me start by saying how I got into it as well, because the funny thing with Seinfeld is, as you've alluded to, in the UK on its launch, for me, growing up in the early 90s, my brother used to watch it religiously, and because he was my older brother and I'm the youngest, if he watched it, I had no choice. I had to watch it. And I never knew anything about it, never heard anything about it. I just saw it, and I watched him watch it, and it made me chuckle a little bit. And, I just started to weed off him liking it. And then after he moved out, and I just saw Sky One, that's what was on Sky One at the time, which is a UK channel for all you US watchers. I started to appreciate the comedy as I was getting older. Let's say I was about 11, 12 at the time when I started watching Seinfeld. And the comedy just started to resonate with me. And because I didn't have the biggest grasp on American culture, just watching these characters be so silly, Kramer with the coming in the room, and Lane for a female character to be so physically comical and still corny, Seinfeld just being that satirical, wise ass,
actually more the straight man. He's actually the straight man comedian in his own show.
True.
Which is so funny.
And my favourite character, George Costanza.
Fucking Constanza.
George, oh my god, this guy, who turns out, which we'll get into later, to literally be the producer, the writer, producer himself, Larry David, anyway.
Yeah.
Which turns into a whole other show we'll get into later.
Well, later on.
But I'll just say, my brother got me into Seinfeld, thank you very much. My friends hated it. It was that show that I didn't have. It was one of those shows that, back in the day, it just used to get in the way of my other shows, like The Simpsons and other shows. But I came to like it myself. I have the DVD box sets as well. And that's all I can say.
I'll take my part. When I was growing up, I watched Seinfeld, and my friends were watching like Alan Partridge, I'm Alan Partridge, or Friends, or other stuff. They weren't, and I tried to introduce Seinfeld to them, and they were like, I was just, in a weird way, when you want your friends to like something, you kind of force them to watch it.
Yeah.
And obviously, it didn't like that, but but I met this one guy at university, and at university, the first week, you get to know people, and you just drift away. So I got to know my friend really well, Daniel, got to know him really well in the first week, and we drifted away. Then we met up again, and we got a bit of a chat, and he said, "Oh, what are you going to get to now?" I'm like, "I'm going to go home and watch some Seinfeld." I went, "Really? You like Seinfeld as well?" And that's how our friendship blossomed. To be honest, we bonded on Seinfeld, and ever since we've just been massive friends. We've liked other stuff as well, but Seinfeld has been the one kind of connected between us.
Yeah.
And to me, Seinfeld, I always sit there going like, if you want to watch a really good sitcom, which is old, watch either Seinfeld, Cheers, Seinfeld or Cheers, really, and Frasier. Seinfeld, Cheers, or Frasier. Let's describe what Seinfeld's about, what the Seinfeld character is. Well, not Seinfeld.
For those of you that don't
know about Seinfeld, an episode of Seinfeld is a day in the life of a guy called Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld, who's a stand-up comedian, and his crazy friends. Like, his three crazy friends.
Yeah.
One of them is Cosmo Kramer, who lives next door, and he is the wacky neighbour that you see in sitcoms times 5, because he's just crazy. Then, as we talked about before, George Costanza, who is a short, balding not maniacal, egomaniac. I don't know.
He's a bit of everything. I'm telling you.
I'll tell you what. He's Woody Allen, but with more malice.
Yeah.
He's Woody Allen with more malice and more contempt
and paranoia.
But my God, he's a character and a half. And obviously, there's Elaine Bennis, who is the ex-girlfriend of Jerry Seinfeld, but became friends, and that kind of female kind of avatar to this kind of crazy world.
Yeah.
But the best thing about Seinfeld is, and I'm sure you'll like this as well, is they have always have 3 or 4 stories kind of interlinking.
Yeah.
Always 3 or 4 kind of disparate stories that are out from nowhere. Then they link in right at the end.
Yeah.
Or they have a couple of stories where it's just basically one story. The story is just based in like a Chinese restaurant, or the subway, or a parking garage, or somewhere you just sit there going like, this really wouldn't work, but it does work. It's so funny because it's so observational as well as just humorous as well.
You know, the funny thing with me and Seinfeld, I don't have favourite. This is a good thing, believe me, people. I don't have a lot of favourite episodes because every single episode has 9 or 10 jokes I absolutely love.
Nuggets of just funniness.
There is one episode in particular that I do absolutely adore. I will try to find the name and number put on screen if I can. If I can't, I do apologise. It's the episode, and it's a bit of a bad description as well. It's the episode where George is dating a girl and her parents don't like him. And the reason why the girl's parents doesn't like George is because they think George is they think he's a hobo. And there's 3 key scenes in this episode that just blew me away of laughter. George is I think he's in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And he sees a cake.
An eclair.
I think it's
more specific, an eclair.
Okay, an eclair. And it's sitting on top of the rubbish bin perfectly. But from the parents' angle, they can't see him. So she sees him going in the bin, picking up the eclair and eating it.
Yeah.
And she's like, what the fuck?
I mean, for me, I love Seinfeld. And there's there are some episodes I do enjoy, but that doesn't mean they're my favourite ones of all of them. But there are some that I've noted down on my phone, which I will say. The Chicken Roasters. It's basically the quick synopsis is there's a chicken roaster that's open right next to Seinfeld's building, and the light, this big red light, is beaming through, massive red lights beaming through Kramer's window, and he can't sleep. So Kramer says, Kramer goes next to him and goes, I need to swap houses with you, Seinfeld. So they swap houses, so Seinfeld lives in Kramer's house, and so, however, it's so funny because Kramer begins to become Jerry Seinfeld, becomes more normal and more kind of reserved and more smart.
He gets his mannerisms
down, whereas Jerry Seinfeld becomes Kramer. Yeah. And that is the funniest thing, because you sit there going like, oh my God, he's just hilarious.
It sounds like a good character piece then, for them to...
Yeah, it's one of the things, if you're a beginner of Seinfeld, then I wouldn't want to watch this one.
First,
you wouldn't watch this one first.
Yeah.
The other one that I do like is the famous one, the contest. The contest is about... George Costanza tells a story that he got caught masturbating by his mum with a Cosmopolitan.
A grown-ass man.
A grown-ass man get caught masturbating. So he says, I will never masturbate again. But he doesn't say those words. He doesn't say masturbate. Yeah. And this is the great thing about it, but I'll explain a bit later. So he says, I'll never do it again. And so Jerry says, you want to bet on it? He went, yeah, I'll put a bet on it. And then, Elaine and Kramer all join in. So the whole concept is to not self-gratify yourself the longest. Seeking who lasts the longest.
Who can stand out without masturbating the longest?
Who can be master of their domain? King of their castle.
That's what I remember calling it. That's what I remember. Because
the great thing about
keep on using that phrase.
The great thing about this episode was not a single word mentioned about masturbation, but everyone knew about it.
Yeah.
And it was groundbreaking as well, because at that time, that wasn't mentioned.
It's really one of those things. Culturally, you don't really discuss it.
Yeah, it was really taboo.
Yeah.
Nowadays, masturbation is not even a funny. It's literally just.
You wouldn't even see a joke on fucking Nickelodeon.
Yeah, it's just it's so commonplace. Yeah. But back then, it was so taboo. You couldn't say the word. Yeah. So the way they phrased the words and you knew what they meant without actually saying it was so fantastically funny. It was so I
remember them. Jerry was saying, they kept on using that phrase.
King of the castle, I'm queen of the mountain.
It was hella fun. Yeah, that. See, like I said, things like that stand out to me. When you said that, then everything came out.
Or the best one where he's like, Kramer kind of comes out the door, he goes, I'm out. He goes, out. I'm out of the contest. It's so funny. You should watch that because that is, to me, that was when Seinfeld was hitting its prime, really. When Larry David was doing Seinfeld, it was very slice of life. It was very like, okay, these are the observational things that's happening. Mm-hmm. It was still very, still interjected stories at the end. It was very slice of life. When Larry David left and the other writers came in, not saying it was bad, it was just a bit more surreal. It's a bit more weirder, but still funny. You can still see it was more Seinfeld-esque, but it was just the characters were tenfold. You know what I mean? Like George Costanza was becoming more George Costanza. Elaine was becoming more Elaine. Kramer was just being more Kramer.
I can see that as well. Now, let's slightly move forward this because, as you said, one of the main writers, Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David were like the main creative team behind the writing of the show. And like you said, he left during, I think, the last 2 seasons. Was that when Larry David left?
I think last 3 seasons.
But then he came back for the ending.
He came back for the ending.
Now, is there anything, because a lot of people don't like the ending of Seinfeld, and I don't either, but I'll get into that. But I just want to ask, before we get to that, is there anything you don't like about Seinfeld?
No. Not really. I mean, I think the thing was just like, which I loved, which I do bring on with any comedy, is like, no hugs, no morals. Which I love. I think that's what Larry David or Jerry Seinfeld said.
What does that mean? I don't even get it.
When you see sitcoms, there's always a moral ending. There's always like, in Scrubs, like, old people are hugging,
a resolution,
there's a moral, there's a moral understanding, or there's some kind of sad song that plays, and we got to, like in Scrubs. Like, I used to like watching Scrubs, but there's always had that kind of really syrupy ending to it, a real moral ending.
That's true, even though Scrubs is one of my favourite shows.
It's one of my favourite shows. I hate the...
I
hate the
see
lead character, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Seinfeld. Yeah. Well, with Seinfeld, it's more like, look, we're just doing the laughs. There's no morals to it. There's no hugs to it. There's no... This is it.
That's it.
This is what you're doing. You're just going to laugh for 25 minutes. That's it.
You've brought an excellent point because I think there are some episodes that can be seen as despicable, the way they treat people, and they do play it for laughs. But like you said, that's just people.
But I think that's the one thing that some people may not like is these guys are arseholes. These guys are real arseholes.
All of them are arseholes.
Stanza's an arsehole, Kramer's an arsehole, Elaine's an arsehole, Jerry's an arsehole. Everyone's an arsehole. But for me, it's just like, well, but we're laughing at them because their shit is funny. There's no moral. There's no moral story to it. It's just like, these guys make me laugh for 25 minutes. I'm happy. That's it. We go
even though it's a twist, you can even call it at times a darker comedy. I think
it's dark. I mean, hell, like
there's some deaths. People even call some accidental deaths. I think George.
George. Like we're gonna say, George's girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
George's girlfriend.
Well, I don't want to go too deep into. Let's move on to this because, like I said, the ending to Seinfeld is. I don't want to say controversial. It's it's controversial because it was critically panned for being
a big disappointment. It's disappointing.
And let me tell you something. They had a really great idea. They did, but I watched it recently again, and I have to say it was even filmed badly. I mean,
but I'll tell you one thing. It's just like, how would you end it?
No, it was done. It was a good idea. But I don't think it was done well.
But I sit there going like, because I was when I was younger, I was a massive Seinfeld nut, and I was reading about it, going, they couldn't end it. I wouldn't say they couldn't end it any other way because I couldn't see how they were going to end it, like how they were going to all end it in a way.
No, that's fine. Like I said, I think it had a good idea, just not done well. And let me lead it on to the other thing, which is I have to bring up Curb Your Enthusiasm because to me, Curb Your Enthusiasm is the spiritual successor to Seinfeld because it's done by the creator. The creator was the one who wrote Seinfeld, and it has that transition. I think the original pilot is Larry David talking about how he made Seinfeld and how he is my favorite character, George Costanza. And even in, I think, the 4th or 5th season, they dedicate a whole season to Seinfeld and to rewrite the ending, which isn't actually a rewrite to the ending. It's more like it's a reunion episode. They're working the whole season of a reunion episode that wraps up the series, and it was great. It was fine, and I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think it's phenomenal. I love Larry David.
I need to watch more of it, but from what I've seen, I enjoy the hell out of it. but I didn't watch more of it. That's for sure.
The thing with Curb Enthusiasm is it's kind of based on reality because these are the real characters who played, the real people who played the characters. Yeah. So you get to see Jerry Seinfeld, you get to see
Michael Richards, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Jason Alexander.
Exactly.
So obviously, what happened was after Seinfeld was such a massive hit.
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld quit because he didn't want to do any more of it, even though he had so much money coming into it.
Yeah.
And this what happened was called the Seinfeld curse.
Yes.
Nobody else could come out of Seinfeld without making anything bigger than Seinfeld. Yeah. The only person that came out of it okay, as well as Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, was Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who came out with 2 really good sitcoms. One I haven't seen, but one I have seen, and it's hilarious. The one that I haven't seen is the Old Adventures or the New Adventures of...
I think it's both. The Old Adventures, New Christine.
Something like that. Something like that. It's very sick. It's very CBS sitcom-y, that kind of thing. But the other one, which is funny as fuck, and because it's satirical and I love satire, is Veep.
Yeah.
Funny as hell. It's done by the guys who did In the Thick of It and In the Loop, and it's just that kind of...
Yeah, I think she had a series even in between, just before Veep as well. Or maybe she was in a mini-series.
I don't know.
I know she did that movie with the guy from The Sopranos recently.
Yeah.
I can't remember it, but I'll put it on the screen now, but that was a decent movie.
I've seen it. I want to see it. So moving on to...
leave the best for last.
Yeah. So moving on to Jason Alexander. Unfortunately, he had a couple of sitcoms, but he was never going to make it big. I think one of them was Bob Roberts, that stars... Theo from Malcolm Warner Jamal from the show, but never made it big. And now he's a stage actor and he's a big. He's won a couple of Tonys if I'm not mistaken. The other one I'm talking about is Jerry Seinfeld. He's now got an internet comedy thing going on. Calls the comedians in cars getting coffee. Really funny though. Really funny. That is really funny. I just saw him on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and I'm just like, crap, it's back. That show's back. I'm going to watch it now. But the last one we're going to see, and it's to me, it's kind of depressing because it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because it's just like I don't hate the guy. It's just depressing because I'm just like, you were one of my favourite characters, and he did this, and
he was the most probably lovable character out of all of the cast.
It's a childish, lovable character. But then we're talking about Michael Richards and his N-word kind of debacle.
His
N-word
explosion.
N-word debacle.
The funny thing is, he wasn't doing well anyway. Apparently, he was doing some stand-up shows at the.
He was doing stand-up shows at the Laugh Factory in LA,
and that's how it was. He wasn't even on the level as the rest of them anyway.
And he was heckled. Thing was, he's a great
stand-up comedian.
Not stand-up comedian. He's a great physical
actor. Yeah, physical comedy actor. Yeah,
he's great. Stand-up wise, I don't know. But what happened was, he basically got heckled, and he just went, "Oh, you all bunch of N-words. Let me see if you lynch yourself on a tree." And he kind of went dark, and his excuse was, not an excuse, but his thing was like he wanted to be more like Lenny Bruce, and I was like, yeah, I don't see it. But I felt sorry for him because I think he was just more frustrated more than anything else. I didn't think it was of malice.
The sad thing is that he was a wake-up call of our digital technology. I mean, if this happened in the time of Seinfeld, people wouldn't have had...
We wouldn't have smartphones or the camera phones at the time.
Because we actually got to hear it. If we saw it and used to heard it, it wouldn't have blown up as badly because we got to watch the whole experience as well.
Yeah.
And, honestly, as a black person, because I'm obviously someone who can comment on it, I felt like he made a very bad decision. I don't feel like he's an actual racist. This is obviously my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
I think he made a really bad decision. I think he tried to shut people up by being controversial at the show. I thought he just tried to be very clever, and it ended up backfiring in the worst possible way. And I just feel sorry for him because I don't think he was making it big anyway, and he just shot himself, not in the foot, but in the face.
Yeah. I think the... going back to the Jerry Seinfeld web episodes, they did an episode with Michael Richards.
Yeah.
And even when Michael Richards were talking about it, he feels so depressed about it because it's not like, oh shit, I lost my career. It's like, I made a mistake.
Yeah,
I made a mistake.
He's seen as a racist. He's called KK Kramer.
I made a mistake that I didn't want to make. I made a mistake and he can't take back. And I feel sorry for the guy.
It's the worst kind of mistake you can make. It's one of the. It's sad, and I don't know what to say. He made a mistake. He fucked up. And the thing is, you know what? I will say this, and we do need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
If he was a bigger personality, like people Like we said before in our videos, like Chris Brown and beating people. People made race
like,
before.
like Mel Gibson. No,
People,
Gibson,
yeah. Mel Gibson's fine. No. What I'm saying is, if he was higher on the totem pole, he might have been more forgiven because there are more fans. But when you're small potatoes and you fuck up like this,
when you're supporting character in a massive show and you're not going to do anything else afterwards, then
you can't afford to make these kind of mistakes.
Can't fuck up like that.
So, but anyway, let's wrap this up because I just want to say I love Seinfeld.
Same here. Love the Seinfeld.
It ended at the right time. It had a competent ending.
Basically, it did what The Simpsons hasn't done yet. It's ended.
Yes.
It ended.
Yes.
It ended.
And you know what? It had its cake in it too because the characters moved on and he done things, and then the creator went to make his own show with the Seinfeld. They made jokes. I mean, that's how you be creative. That's how you move forward. And But anyway, the show made a shit ton of money. It's still very successful. Still very loved. The only question I didn't really ask, but I want you guys to answer in the comments below. Yeah. Do you even know what Seinfeld is?
Yeah. Or no, this is more to the British folk. Do you know what Seinfeld is? Because I know what the Yankees.
No. I'm not going to say that. You know why?
Okay.
It's an old show.
Yeah,
25 years. We're talking about a whole new generation of people.
Yeah, that's true.
Did they grow up? Because Seinfeld might have been taken off the air, been replaced by other sitcoms, newer sitcoms.
That's true.
So my question is, you guys, if you watched all this video, by the way, and you're this far, do you know what Seinfeld is? Do you appreciate Seinfeld? Is it something you just hold in disdain? Do you see these old guys just think,
it's a 90s thing, what the fuck?
Yeah, so...
Yeah, but, hey, Seinfeld, long let it live.
Congratulations, you did well, you went with grace, we love you, and, people, thanks for watching. Let us know what you think about the 25th anniversary. If you love Seinfeld, you hate Seinfeld,
let us know in the comments below. Love, share, and subscribe. That's all I gotta say.
As always, definitely.